Okay, welcome to the nLitenAi video podcast where we talk about nLitenAi and all things AI. Today, we have CEO of nLitenAi, Mike Sawka. How you doing, Mike?
Doing good, doing good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. What I wanted to do today is just talk about your background, where you grew up, how you grew up, and what kind of traits maybe that stuff gave you to get you to where you are today, both as a person and as a business owner, and someone who's starting a venture like
Sure,
this.
sure.
Um, so, where did you grow up, and what kind of
Hmm, hmm.
jobs did you have when you were a kid?
Yeah, that's. I moved around a lot. When I was 5, 6, 7, we moved from Illinois to Minnesota, and then from Minnesota to Arizona. Um, my mom was trying to get us out of a bad situation, so we moved out to Arizona, and within a short period of time, within a couple years, we had kind of landed in Tempe. So short stint in Prescott, if you guys know where that is, mid central Arizona. Then another short stint in Phoenix, and then my mom found us a house in Tempe. So we lived over by the not too far from ASU, and we were right by the river that kind of runs through the Phoenix area, the Salt River. So we were right in that area, rural in the
Mhm.
if you know where rural
Mhm.
and the river
And
is right there.
how old were you at this time?
About third grade is when
Okay.
we moved there. So still pretty young, little kid, single
So
digit. You know.
we were talking before about one of the first jobs that you had was a paper route when you were a kid,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
I had actually
So
had the
how old were you when you got the paper route?
third grade. Yeah, so
That was in third grade.
third grade. My older brother Jim, he was 1 year older than I was, and he got it. So he was in fourth grade. I was in third grade, and we would get up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, some crazy time, pitch black, dark outside, and ride our little bikes over to the grocery store. And behind the grocery store, next to the big trash cans and all the garbage, some guy would pull up in a truck and toss a bunch of bales of paper, newspapers out, and we'd go over and unbundle them, and we'd have to memorize, like 100 different houses. There was no maps. They gave us, I think,
Right,
initially a list, but it was so long ago I don't remember. But yeah, we'd have to go and memorize which houses got the newspaper, and then
right.
we'd have to go in the mornings, grab the paper, get them bundled up, put them in our bags, and with rubber bands and everything, and then go deliver them. After that, we'd go
So
to school.
what year was this ish?
Oh, let's see. Good Lord, now you're making me think here. 78 maybe,
Okay.
somewhere in
And what
that
would
time
a
frame.
third grade paper boy make
Maybe
for
$20 a week
delivering
for working
20
seven
bucks a
days a
week? Yeah,
week. Maybe,
yeah. Uh-huh.
maybe. And that's again. That's if you were able to go and do collecting, because not only were you the
Gotcha.
labor to deliver all the papers, you also had to be the enforcer for adults to go and get money from them. So that was a lot of fun, is trying to get your $2 out of somebody who didn't want to pay. Yet you couldn't stop delivering papers to them even if they didn't pay. So that was
I
a
see.
fun
I
job. But
see.
hey, it's the
Yeah.
only job you could have as a little kid and make real money.
And this was in Arizona?
Yeah, yeah. We lived in
Okay.
Tempe. I was there for third, fourth, and fifth grade. So those 3 years, Arizona Republic, I believe, is what we were delivering. It was either that or Phoenix Gazette. I don't know, but I think pretty sure it was Arizona Republic. And then Sundays, the big giant paper always came out on Sunday. And then we
Mhm.
moved to Mesa, which is those who don't know, it's just the next town over from Tempe. And in Mesa, I did another 3 years, so the sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. So I did it for a total of six
Okay.
years.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And then you moved out of the area, or what was your next big job in your younger years after that?
My mom, had, like I said, got in a bad situation, or got out of a bad situation, that ended up moving a couple times in the valley. She met someone, she got married, remarried to her second husband. We moved to where he lived, which was Aurora, Colorado, and at that point I was 15, so I was able to go and get a job after you're 15 and a half. I don't know what it is now, but it used to be 15 and a half. You could go get a job pretty much anywhere. So I had a bunch of different, just normal kind of jobs at the mall. I worked at like Orange Julius, was first job, and then I worked at some hamburger place and a clothes store, wherever I could get
Yeah.
work. It just little place like that, and then a
Right.
restaurant. Finally, I got, for whatever reason, I'm 16 years old. They hire me as a busboy, which is fine, but then they promote me to fry cook. I have no idea how to be a fry cook, and but I learned. So I get to be a fry cook when I was 16. But
Well, then you could be president if that's your prerequisite, you know?
yeah, exactly. Phew.
So after all that, then you had a situation in, I guess, high school, right? With your mom, and
Oh
she
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
gave you a rude awakening, right? Can you tell me about that a little
Well,
bit?
again, the three. There's I've got two brothers. I probably haven't said that yet, but I've got two brothers, no sisters. And
Mhm.
being kind of raised by ourselves, my mom was working, taking care of us. My dad was out of the picture. So we just kind of raised ourselves. We were rowdy. We weren't mean. We were destructive ish, but we were definitely rowdy kids. And so we kind of raised ourselves for about 5 or 6 years until there's her new husband. He was a nice enough guy, but we were just not used to having anyone tell us what to do. And all of a sudden, I've got a couple of adults telling me what to do, and just not used to that. So
Yeah.
I got through my junior year, and during my senior year, I really started kind of rebelling and going out and hanging out. I've got a bunch of buddies. We're still buddies that kind of hung out at. I had two friends that got kind of kicked out of their parents' house, and so they had their own apartment, and so we would hang out there. And during Christmas time, my senior year, I just decided to stay there. My mom and her husband went, and my stepdad went on a vacation. So I was like, I'll just stay over, Bill and Troy's place. And
Mhm.
I also worked about a block away from that, anyways, at this mall in Prescott. After we went to Aurora and then came back to Prescott again in central Arizona. And so I was going to school and working, doing everything we should be doing there. But all of a sudden, I see my mom coming in and she's carrying a couple things. I'm like, what's going on? She's not supposed to be back from vacation yet, and she's got two suitcases, and basically says, if you don't want to be home, here's your stuff. Don't come back.
So those
And
suitcases
so,
were every
yeah,
every belonging you had, right?
yeah, at least the some clothes and some shoes and stuff.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
this whole time though, you were kind of being self sufficient at a pretty young age. Like it's one of these classic stories of like finding
right.
jobs and like not really relying on parents and figuring out what you were doing and how you were going to do it. Right.
Yep. Even when we moved to
That's what it
Prescott,
sounds
I,
like.
I mean, I got a job baling hay, stacking firewood, just whatever I could do. There's not a whole lot of jobs in Prescott. It was a pretty small
Right.
town back then. My senior year, I was in a club at school called DECA, Distributive Education Clubs of America, which is like a co-op where you go to school half a day. Because I already had plenty enough credits to graduate, except for
Right.
English. So I took half a day's school, and then I went to work, and the school found me a job locally, and that's the job that I was at when she dropped off my stuff.
I see. So
So
did you have any idea what you wanted to do like in life at this point, or was it more just survival, like work and get some money and
it,
live
it
and
was it was a
see what
lot of
happens?
survival. Yeah, I
Yeah.
hadn't really thought too much about it, but for the most part, I figured. I mean, my as a little kid, I figured it's the path that I want to be on was pilot, astronaut, senator, president. Right. So as a
Right.
little kid, I don't know where I came up with that, but
Hence the
at
fry
some
cook
point,
thing, right?
yeah, it's right after fry cook, maybe fry cook, then astronaut. I don't know, but
Right.
but at some point, I figured I needed to go to college, but no one had ever talked to me about going to college. I didn't have the greatest counselors, and I was kind of rowdy.
Yeah.
I was, again, it wasn't a bad kid. I was getting good grades. I did okay. I got A's and B's, and I
Hmm.
showed up for school. I was never mean. We never picked on people. We just were outliers. We weren't the traditional,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, you know, you know, kids that you're proud of all the time. It's like, yeah, it
So
is
so
what
then
it is.
what did you do after school then? Where'd you go after high school?
My friend Bill and I, we moved down to the Tempe area, and we ended up getting jobs down here. we went to, he initially got, I think he got a job at McDonald's. I got a job at a shoe store because that's the work I had when I was in high school. So I had at
Hmm.
least 1 year experience selling shoes. So I worked at a shoe store in a mall. And then he got a job at Pizza Hut. And I was like, that it's a lot closer to where we live. So I also got a job at Pizza Hut. We ended up being shift supervisors for Pizza Hut
Hmm.
delivery, and we had this gigantic area. It's like 40 square miles because it was all rural. Tempe was
Yeah.
South Tempe was nothing. There was just nothing there back in the day. We had
Yeah.
all of Avatuki and South Tempe. It was just a gigantic open area. So we had this. We just just delivered pizzas. We had a good time. It was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, for the most part, we just. I mean, you probably made 15, $20 an hour being back in the mid 80s.
So then, how did the Air Force come about?
Well, at some point, we were seeing our friends, their parents getting them into college, and I was like, how are you doing this? Well, my dad's paying for it. My mom, whatever. I was like, I don't have any money, and I don't have a relationship with my parents, so
Hmm.
I was like, how do you do that? And then I don't remember how it came up, but at some point they were saying, GI Bill. They can get you. They can get you.
Gotcha.
You can get in the service, and then
Now,
after
is
you're
this
in
in
the service,
pursuit
you
of
can
the
get the
pilot
GI Bill.
thing in your
Yeah,
list
yeah. I
of
mean, it kind
things
of
that you wanted
lined
to do?
up
Okay,
actually.
so
Yeah, because I was thinking,
Air Force because
because
of
I
pilot. Gotcha.
exactly. And so my buddy Bill went in the Navy. He got really high score in his ASVAB test. I don't remember what it was. It was like 97, 98, some really high score. And they put him in the nuke program, and he stayed in for a whole career. Did excellent. Had a great career as a nuclear tech. Made his way to be an officer and retired as an officer. But for my journey, it was a little different. I wanted to go in to get college money so that I could go to school, be an engineer, and then go back in as a pilot, and then astronaut, senator, president. So that part
Okay,
was still
so
there.
at
I
this
had a
point,
path at
engineer was
least.
also kind of part of the mix.
Yeah, yeah, and because
Okay,
you had to have some type of degree. So looking
I
at
see.
the what was needed, you have to have a degree, and the ones that I saw that were ended up being the astronauts were engineers, the aerospace engineers and stuff like that. I
Right.
was like, ooh, I think maybe I'll do it that way.
Well, now, so just because I know about your product and the software now,
Mhm.
during this time in your life when you're trying to navigate all these things, if you look ahead to now, did how you felt back then and the uncertainty of how to do all these things
Yeah,
play into how you got this idea
uh,
for the Enlighten
yeah,
AI?
absolutely, and that over the years or decades at this point, but over this time period, I was like, wouldn't it be great if, you know, and that's part of what's led up to where we are now, where we have a tool AI that allows you to do things that even 5 years ago it was just that the software cost to develop what we're doing is just cost prohibitive,
Yeah.
and the engine that's being that's driving this is AI, and that's the whole idea. What I'd like to talk about in this podcast is like, hey, there's a ton of podcasts out there that say the end of the world's coming for AI because it's clickbait. It draws people's attention. Yeah, they're going to give views.
Right.
It's not really what I think. On the other hand, I'm more optimistic about this great tool. I've seen what happened in at least when the computer age and the cell phone age came about. The computer age, people were maybe not as dramatically negative as they are now about some of the things in regards to AI, but there was definitely negative connotations towards how computers were going to be the end of jobs and how they're going to be.
And that's
And if
just
you
it,
look through,
right? Anything that
yeah,
is new that's coming along, there's
right.
an uncertainty of is this going to work or how is it going to work or oh, it's different than the thing that came before, like color TV or whatever. You know what I mean? Anything that
And you
changes,
look at
people are going to talk
horses
about.
didn't like cars, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because the
Yeah.
manufacturer of buggies, they didn't want, oh my gosh, they're going to put everybody out of business. Guess what? Their new jobs have always been created. Every single time there's been a huge technology advance, a new group of jobs. Again, I look back to when I was in the Air Force and we got the new computers. Like, oh, cool. What do we do with these? We didn't even know what to do with them, but
Yeah.
behind the scenes, there were programmers that had been hired recently because guess what? They knew a little bit of code and then they learned a lot more as they're developing these. And then they grow and they grow, and the amount of computers get used more because, oh, I can use it for this. Cool. And that's how AI is going to happen. And I think it's going
Yeah.
to be exponential comparatively.
And honestly, like when you talk about how you're envisioning this working, we've had this beginning portion of AI where it's introduced to the public, and now we have like a Chat GPT and we have a Grok and
Yeah.
we have all these things, and now it's like, so what do we do with it? And now we're seeing a lot of these apps that are referencing the information in those, whatever you want to call them, systems or
We'll just call them
you know,
engines, right? Yeah,
yeah,
you've got several AI engines. That's the way
hmm
I look at it. And I'm sure they have a more technical name than that. But if you look at, say, there's ChatGPT, there's Genesis, there's Grok, there's Claude, there's all these different engines that these companies have made
yeah,
to go out and do similar things. Now, I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones that we don't know about, but the ones that we
hmm
do know about, and they're always constantly updating them because they find something that's not quite working as well as this guy's doing this great graphics over here. Oh, this one does video better. This one does this better. And so you have like this really cool. You almost you look at it, you're like, wow, this is you know competition, and it's almost at its finest. You can see it happening where this
well,
guy's
and it didn't
get
take
better.
very long for all these apps to come out either. I mean, it's like we had the initial AI thing that everyone was just
Right,
using, like asking it questions and stuff, and then before you know it, a year later, now you're seeing all these ads for 40 apps that are using all this stuff
right.
and everything else, and they're talking about it changing people's lives, and all the opportunity they can provide if you learn how to deal with all these things. I mean, it
That's
really is
right.
the next thing.
It is, and you can sit back and say, oh, let someone else do it, let someone else do it. But to me, this has been like an answer. If you look at where we were talking about before, which is, I had issues with how do I plan a career. I had no idea. I did not have good career counselors. I did not have parents that could help me. They're good parents, don't get me wrong. Well, at least my mom was. My dad was kind of a mess, but it wasn't like they knew either because they hadn't been to college. My
Right.
dad had been to one called DeVry for 2 years. He got, but I wasn't close to my
Well,
dad
that's
at the
kind of the
time.
issue though, because like especially in your generation, there was a lot of parents that wanted their kids to go to college
Yeah,
because they didn't, and
that's
then
right.
they do, and then it's like you kind of just leave the kid up to figuring it out once they get there, or relying on the resources that are given to them once they get there. And
Exactly.
the parents don't really have much to do with it at that point, which is the
Yep.
benefit of now. If you're talking about AI and everything else, right? I mean, the sky's the limit, right? In terms of
Oh
the
yeah,
types
it's
of
it's
resources and
incredible the
what
amount of
where you can get this
information.
information. Yeah.
It's
hmm
crazy. I like. I'm sure the other ones have this too, but I do like using Grok on my phone. It has just a like a conversation aspect to it where you can just talk and you have a
hmm
back and forth conversation for as long as you want, and
Yeah.
exploring different things. And it's like having a like the most knowledgeable person that you've ever had. Now, does it get some stuff wrong? I'm sure it does, but the ability to pull, and then dive deeper into things, but pull information out of the internet and out of the world's you know uh, just library of knowledge, and just and bring it down to what you're discussing, and
So, did you have
never
the
makes.
the idea for the Enlighten AI prior to AI being a thing? Were
Wwell,
you trying to think of
yeah, I
ways to
just
do it,
didn't
or is
know
this
that it
something that
was going to
happened after
be.
you
Yeah.
saw?
Well, it's a combination, right? So it's something I wanted to do. So I got through the Air Force. I figured out that I this wasn't for me. I loved it. I really do. I think I probably had the most amount of fun while I was in the service, up
Mhm.
until that point. Even though I did a bunch of crazy stuff, but I enjoyed being. I went from like a dude that worked at Pizza Hut to a guy who was in charge of a multi-million-dollar aircraft. So I was on a KC-135. I was a crew chief. So I got to go and be part of the flight crew too. As the crew chief, you don't get
Mhm.
to fly with the crew always because back in the time they actually had a 4-man crew, and if it was overnight, you'd have the crew chief go with. But for the most part, it looks like now they got rid of the navigator. They just have the pilot, co-pilot, and boom operator. But either way, the crew chief, would be on the ground. You'd have one team that would get plane ready. It would take off. The aircraft would come back, and then you catch it. You do all the stuff to get it ready to overnight it, put the all the things in it to protect it, and you button it up and you leave. So you have two crews, a launch and a recovery crew. And it was enjoyable, but it was just not for me. It's not what I want. Like I said, I
Right.
wanted to be the pilot.
But
So
were you
I
thinking
looked at
about this then too? Like, were you thinking about
not
what you were
necessarily
going to do in the
about
or
enlighten AI, but because I
well,
at
yeah.
some point became a trainer, and I was like, there's got to be a better way.
Oh, I see.
It would
Okay.
drive me
Yeah, yeah.
crazy. The the nice thing about being in the military, they had every tiny little step by step in a book. So if you needed to learn something, so sometimes like when our aircraft was gone, they would have us sit down with the technical documents. We'd open it up and learn how to change out a tire. They have every tiniest little step. Turn this, take this bolt, do this, do that. And so you could learn a lot
Did they
like that.
rely
But
on you to learn
gosh,
that on your own, or did they
to a
have
degree,
people?
no, they
Yeah.
had they
Okay.
had they had trainers as usually the
Gotcha.
NCO. So as you became a sergeant or a staff sergeant, they would be responsible as a full crew chief to train the junior staff. So, and
Okay.
it would take years. So it's not something you would be expected to do within a year or two. So as you
Hmm.
get out of tech school, basic training, then a couple tech schools, then you get on your base. At least I was at one base for 2 years and the next base for 6 years. uh,
Hmm.
During those times, you're learning, you're growing, you're getting rank, you're getting more experience, you're going on what are temporary duty or TDYs. You're learning more and more, and they give you more and more
Yeah.
responsibility. And they've got a book, and in the book, you write down all the things that are wrong. The pilot comes out, you go through the book with the pilot, making sure that everything's signed off and there's
Hmm.
no red X's and everything's good to go. And then you do a walk around with the pilot, you pull all the stuff out, you make sure it's ready to go, you do flight controls. So there's stuff that you have to learn. It takes years to learn it,
Yeah.
but still, how cool is it that you go from working at like delivering pizzas to deliver an
Yeah.
aircraft? That to me, the responsibility that was associated with that was a big part of it. But
Yeah.
I just thought, man, it seems like it would be a better way to teach people, and that kind of
So
followed in. So,
without
go ahead.
without going from into a lot of detail, I mean, I know you've had a lot of businesses yourself,
Mhm.
you know, and up until this point, let's just say like paper route stuff, all the odd jobs stuff. Now we're in the Air Force. Now you're go to college, yada yada. But after you get out, I mean, how many businesses have you started on your own?
Well, the first business I started was actually in college, and I have my story of two Mikes, and I compare my life to Michael Dell, and because we both
Hmm.
kind of started in our younger years building computers. Instead of getting married right away, which I did, and had a kid, and then got a job because I had to take care of my family. Again, nothing that I would say that I wouldn't do again because I love my family,
Yeah.
but it was just a different path. So he focused on his company, and that became Dell Computers, big giant monster,
Hmm.
you know. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I think that's great. It's a great example. And then, but that's what he focused on. I focused on something different. Um, Again, that was the first one I did. It was called At Home Computing. And so what I would do is build. People would tell me what they want to do. I'd get the software. I'd get all the parts and pieces from a local distributor. I'd build the computers. I'd test them. I'd install the software, including the operating system and all the different, Microsoft, because they used to come on those little floppies, the little 35 floppy disks, and you have to install. So I
Hmm.
would do all that,
Hmm.
then take the computers. I'd show people how to use them, and I did that. And then I also worked. I had a couple really good internships, um, and so I learned a ton from my internships. I had two really good ones, and then I worked for Arizona State as a network administrator in the engineering college.
Wow.
So all those kind of things kind of got me to the point where I could make my own computers. I could, put them together. And then I got close to graduating. I kind of had to make that choice. Was I going to keep going with, my business or get a job? I had a wife and a young son. So yeah, it was more responsible. I even thought maybe I'll stay in to get my master's, and no, It just
Yeah.
it was time to go get a job and
Yeah.
get out of poverty. So
So
to
was
me,
this like a more of a you were interested in this stuff, or it was more I gotta support my family kind of stuff, or it's just the kind of person you are to start these businesses and try to go about life that way?
no, it's I enjoy it. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of my dad was a business owner. He also did some other
Oh, okay.
things too. He worked for companies, but
Hmm.
he had his own side business. His second wife and him, can't remember exactly what it was called, but they had a business for many years, and I always thought that would, because they did it out of their house too. I was like, wow,
Right.
that's pretty cool. They had like a whole printing thing, and they had this big garage, and
Hmm.
they with a apartment above it, and so they had set up the apartment for all the business stuff and all the printing things, and it was pretty cool. So
Yeah.
I like that, and then I liked, I just enjoyed working. I've said this for a while now. Is I really enjoy working for clients, not so much for bosses. I'm
Yeah.
not much of a, yeah. I have a an issue with bosses.
Yeah.
So
So, so can you describe now, like where you're at now,
sure.
and where you're, I guess, what you're focused on, if it's
Hmm.
primarily Enlighten AI, or if you have a couple things going on, or what you see in the next 5 years or so.
Sure. The um, right now, yes, I'm mostly focused on nLiten AI. I do have another business where we contract with a large company, a very large company, and we have a delivery business with them. And how I got there is I started an engineering company about 13 years ago. That turned into having to ship things. We
Hmm.
found that it was less expensive to ship them ourselves and hire drivers and bike vehicles. That then turned into a shipping business separate from the engineering business. That then turned into, big contracts with a couple of the, large online, mega company that everybody buys stuff from. And I love them. They're great, and I would never do anything, obviously, to to jeopardize that. So yes, I still
Yeah.
am associated with that, and there's things I need to do that. But um, part of my other world, as I have moved up through the, my professional engineering careers, there's a part of large construction projects called commissioning, and in
Hmm.
commissioning, um, it's taking a piece of equipment that has been built and getting it up and running and handing it over to operations. So it's at the very end of the construction phase, and it's a highly specialized. You get to go to a lot of cool places all over the world. I've been North and South America, all over. I just got back from Indonesia about a year or so ago, a little less than that. And just it's great, and you make good money. You're just away from your family a lot, so that's why I kind of have, more drawn to the being at home, being closer to home, because I do miss
Yeah.
my family if I'm gone on one of these big projects. So
Hmm.
Enlighten AI, it came from a bunch of different things. Again, when I was at Arizona State, I was a tutor. I had a hard time getting through calculus. That was my big thing. I did good in, college algebra and trig and geometry. That was not the issue. It was calculus and differential equations, and
Yeah.
it was tough for me. So I had to go to the tutoring center, and it was horrible. But it is what it is. It's better than nothing. So
Hmm.
uh,
Give me like
over the
a
year,
15-second what is Enlighten AI?
Enlighten AI looks at answering a couple different things. First,
Hmm.
school is hard. How do you know, that you're going to be able to get past the next class? A lot of times, you don't either have the answer, you can't get to a teacher, you can't get to your TA. Tutors are not available, or they're really expensive. So these things that I've kind of pulled from my background and my history, I've tried to look at all the different problems that I had with teaching and learning, and take this tool, this AI tool that's always available, always ready, pulls information from the whole world and gives it up, and then also adapts to the student, understanding how the student learns, understanding, through interactions, how to teach the student towards comprehension. We're not looking to just give answers. They can get that from Chat GPT, but a way for not only do they get the answers, but they understand the steps. And if they don't understand something, it can see that, go back, take a look at a prerequisite that they're not quite grasping, teach the prerequisite, come back to the question, and then finish it through so that they comprehend. The whole idea is to help learn, not just to get answers. And
I
then
think that's the
once
most
you,
important point here, right? Is that
yeah, yeah,
it's not just asking ChatGPT a question because anyone can do that now. You know,
right,
it's
right,
it's how does this get you to learn in the right kind of way, and how does it
yep.
reference other material that can help you and help you develop a general sense of understanding.
And then along with that is the structure that I didn't have as a
Yeah,
as a kind of, like we call it, a homeless teenager. I didn't have the structure to know when to go to school, where to go to school, how to apply. And that's another thing that we have, that so you have this, it's kind of a mix between an AI tutor and a personal assistant. So if you,
sure.
once you do get into school, you can scan in your or upload your curriculum, your syllabus, your teacher, your schedule, whatever, and it'll seamlessly create that information and push it over to your calendar. So
Yep.
that you've got tests due on these dates, homework due on those dates, and then you can set up, with them, say, okay, I need to set up study sessions, at least 1 to 2 days before each test. Here are other people that are in my class. They also are on nLiten AI, so that
Yeah,
group
and
sessions can form.
that's an
Go ahead.
important point to make too, because I remember when I was in college. I mean, you have all these classes, and honestly, like college is not the time. At least it wasn't for me to really prove that I learned anything. I mean, it was a time to compile all this knowledge
You
so that I could pull
memorized.
from it later.
Yeah.
But you
How
still had to
good
take
were
the
you at
tests and you still had to
memorizing?
do all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So if you have like 8 classes or whatever it is on a full you know credit load these days, like they're all going to have tests at different times. And I don't think, I mean, I wasn't old enough or mature enough to be able to organize that kind of
Yeah.
stuff into a calendar and be like, oh, well, I got to prioritize this and then I got to prioritize this,
Right.
you know,
And
so
then
that I could
it
study
can
or know all
remind
this
you,
stuff in
it can
time.
chat with you and say, hey, you've got a study session coming up in 20 minutes. Do you want me to remind you in 10? Yes. And it can have
Yep.
conversations. That's the fun part about it's not just, hey, Siri, put a calendar in the, and it does it and that's it. It can
Yeah.
actually have full conversations. Hey, do you want to set up something with your group? Yes. What time? And go back and forth. So it's a new tool. It's to me, it's real exciting. There's
Yeah.
a lot of different things, but then you take that tool, that scheduling, that tutor that knows you and understands how you learn, to make sure that you're also, hey, look how good you are in this area. There are 5 new types of jobs opening up in those areas. um, this is a great, you're in high school now, but hey, this is a great college that's teaching the curriculum that you like to get to that further job.
Yeah.
So our first product is the AI tutor assistant. The second product is that we'll be coming out with is a career planner that looks at all the stuff that you're already doing, and it works with you to figure out how do you shift from where you are now to where you want to be. What's that goal? So that's another thing,
Well, yeah. And it's,
looking
it's,
back.
it's placement only goes so far too,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, and in a lot of places, it's not really that effective at all. I mean, they're basically just going to give you a contact list of people to maybe call when you get to whatever city or something like that, or offices. But if you have something like this that has been with you, I think that's important to note. Also, it's been with you the entire time. It's learned what you
that's right.
grasp and what you don't grasp, right? And like you were saying, even when we go back to the like, oh, you have a test in 30 minutes. Well, it could probably help you refresh your memory as to what's going to be on the
Yeah,
test based on what you've had trouble with. And it probably knows, oh, yeah, this, and this we have to
yeah. And
cover
think
in the
put it
next
put it
10
this way:
minutes
you
or
could
something
even
like
put
that,
it on where it maybe we have something called regurgitate mode. So as you're biking or walking to your class, it could be wearing headphones and just having it go, and the square root of da 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 da, or whatever your test about,
Yeah.
and just having reminders so that when you get there, you're prepped. one of the other cool things that it does, are we're in prototype right now. We're doing beta testing. So one of the items in the beta test that they're doing is the note taker. So you go in class, you hit start. It'll take notes from the professor, your teacher, whatever, and then it will transcribe those notes, create action items, and ask if you want those action items written to your calendar. So anything like, hey, don't forget to study question 3 on page 27. Okay, cool. I'll make sure and that automatic will get put into your homework. Or if there's a new test or a quiz that or the date changed from the syllabus, great. Now that will say, do you want to confirm that this is the date change? Yes, confirm. Boom, and it does it for you. So it acts as, like I said, it's a personal assistant slash tutor that really looks out for you.
Yeah.
That's looking out for your best interest versus you always get that from a tutor. Sometimes you get
Yeah.
with a tutor
Yeah.
and they're great. Sometimes not so much. I mean, you end up having to pay them whether or not they're good. But
Sure. Sure.
yeah, so and it gets better as you use it because it gets to know you, and it's pretty good to begin
Right.
with. Our prototype, like I say, it's pretty good, but as we develop it more, as it gets better, it's going to be a great tool for people to learn. And then, like I said, the next
Sure.
phase is the career planner. And then how do you look out and see what else is out? What's that? They say, oh, AI is going to take all the jobs. Okay, but there will be new jobs. So it's time to start thinking about that now. As a high school
Sure.
and college student, you got to think about, okay, if those old type jobs are going away, cool. What is coming next?
And where are you at right now? I mean, I know timelines always change, but what are you projecting for
Yeah.
this to be at least the first phase to be available?
Yeah, so we're like I said, we're in beta test right now. Our goal is to have the first few iterations done by May, with an MVP, which is minimal viable product, for actual users, in May June timeframe, to get to a point where we can actually go from freemium, which is a free version of the software, to a paid version
Hmm.
by the fall semester. So August, September is kind of like what we're shooting for right now.
Well, it all sounds great. Uh,
Hmm.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very
No,
much.
thank
Nice
you.
hearing about
Appreciate it.
where you've come from and what it's created and creating. So fantastic.
Well, that's the best part about, I said I've started up a bunch of companies. Not all of them have been super successful. But
Yeah,
you learn from everything. You learn from the good and the bad. We've
exactly.
sold some of them companies and made money. Our team is a well focused, highly educated, very motivated team, and it's already
Yeah.
working. So I'm just really excited about it. It's a lifelong trail to get here, I guess, and it's finally coming. And it's like, wow, I can actually, you see it works, and it's like the functionality is like, wow, it actually works. This is awesome.